Hazel is the best hype girl ever. I'm gonna need her to introduce me everywhere I go. I already started to get emotional because I wasn't expecting the beginning of this. I didn't realize that you guys do this with your clients and these achievements that you've made. And it always gets me so emotional because...
if she has her microphone, will you interfere with the recording? Should be fine, you know? So use the mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did it go?
It's for you.
Okay.
It's, oh, not this mic.
No, you need to record that for the recording, but this big room.
Okay.
We're telling for Whitney Houston.
Oh, God. I won't be doing that. I remember, like it was yesterday, these achievements that we just acknowledged here. And they're huge, they're big, and they mean a lot. And I just want to point that out, that it's hard. Those first 7 months, you know, are just so hard, especially when you're thinking you're a 30-dayer, right? Okay, well, I want to set some, I know I Am Recovery has their own rules, but I'm going to kind of hijack some of that a little bit. I want to set some parameters here and let you know that if you are triggered by any of this content, I will not feel hurt, disrespected, anything if you need to walk out. So I give you permission to do that. And second is, whatever questions you guys have, I don't care about the verbiage. Don't feel obligated to ask it appropriately. I know that we're using new terminology. This is a new subject, especially for Utah. We're just kind of getting on board with a lot of this. So ask it how you know it, ask it how you want it. I won't be offended by anything. So please, the more questions, the better. I really want to educate as many people as possible. I love you, John Red. I missed you so much. He's a great human. If you don't know John, you need to. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of breeze, well, the story's long, but I need to like preface how I got into the situation I got into. And that starts with, I don't know, first 20 years of my life or something. So we're gonna go through that pretty quickly. I am from a blended family. I never met my real dad. I had 2 stepsisters and an inappropriate stepfather. The home was turbulent. My mother was strong and powerful and ran things, but she had to be the caregiver, be financially responsible for everyone, and she missed a lot in that. I never got along with my sisters. I had one great male relationship in my life, and that was my grandfather, and we were like as thick as thieves. I would always call him like every day from school and tell him I was sick, and he would always come and get me. You know, we had this thing going on. It was great. And then he died, and I was 10, and I had lost my safe place. I'd lost my safe person, and I had overdosed on acid 2 years later. I was 12 years old and rushed to the emergency room and sat in a hospital bed in the dark for a couple of days. So that kind of kicked off this disconnect from human beings. Using drugs, selling drugs, quickly got into that at a young age and carried that through. Got pregnant at a young age, had a boy. His name is Gabriel. He's now 21. And he is the man in the house that I've always wanted. So I am grateful that he is here. He's very special. I ended up getting pregnant again, and this was my first real connection with God that I can remember. And I was mad. I was really, really mad. I was like, if you're there, you better like show up right now, because I have no one, I'm pregnant again, I'm, catching charges, like life is shit, I need your help and I need it right now. Literally made a phone call and got accepted into a treatment program. And It was just like a couple of weeks later, I went to a doctor's appointment and that baby had passed. And he was the only reason why I got into treatment. And he is buried next to my grandfather, and his name is Noah, and he's very special. My fairy tale life started after that. I had gone to treatment, and they had scholarshiped me for many months. I was doing great, right? I'd had a lot of time in treatment. It was wonderful. Got married, moved to Jackson Hole, we were driving nice cars, life was great, I'm like, I had made it, and got pregnant again, and had my son Lincoln, and he's 13 now, and he's a great little boy, but he's 13, so he is my current problem. And then my husband started drinking. And, I totally passed over that my inappropriate stepfather had died, and my son and I, Gabriel, had found him. And that was not good. But, okay, so husband, drinking. Obviously, drunk men are a huge trigger for me. I have a very inappropriate stepfather. So we separated. And he died from his alcoholism. He had an esophageal rupture, and the lining of his esophagus tore, and he bled out. So here I am with these two boys, and trying to provide a life for them that we had that I couldn't do. So I knew what I could do, and that was to go back to selling drugs. Connected with this drug dealer. This relationship was garbage from the beginning, obviously. Thought I was in like a romantic relationship with this individual. Quickly found out that, I don't know, maybe it was 3 months in, that I was in a domestic violence relationship with this individual. And I was actually pretty terrified, but I was already broken. I already had given up, basically. So this starts in 2011. I had realized that I was in a very dangerous situation when I ended up in the emergency room. Almost bleeding out from an injury. And he was there, and nurses are asking me, what had happened. The injury was unusual and suspect, but I couldn't answer the questions honestly because he was in that same room. So I lied, and I went back for emergency surgery and came out, and immediately before, I don't know, I'd been out of surgery for maybe an hour and a half, and he's already pushing me to leave. So I'm pulling out IVs, I'm leaving, the surgical nurses are like, you're leaving AMA, and I didn't really feel like I had much of a choice at that point. I left, and that's when I knew that I was not in a consensual situation. I was expected to start working, and I'm talking sex work, I don't know, a week or so later, and I still had stitches. So drugs were my only reprieve at the time. And so I was hitting it hard. And that quickly spiraled me into an even worse situation. So I'm getting stuck from many different areas. My oldest son is now living with my mother. My youngest son is with me. He's young. To this day, I'm not sure he really understood what was happening. He knows I was in a violent relationship, but I don't think that he understands what was going on. Thank you. So this pattern stuck around for a minute. I was picking up criminal charges, distribution charges, in and out of emergency rooms, getting stitches, broken bones. Hospital staff were irritated with me. I remember a time where I was getting stitches in my hand, and I was already dope sick, and I had been beat up, and I was tired, and the doctor had already seen me, like, it was the same emergency room doctor, had already seen me a couple of times that month, and he's stitching me up, like, really hard, and he's like, this is never gonna end if you don't leave, you know, and I felt very defensive of myself, and I was starting to get pushed away from anyone who could possibly get me out of this situation. I'm not doing well on probation. That's not going well. I'm constantly dirty. They're trying to understand the situations. They know that police are breaking down the doors and rescuing me from violent situations because neighbors are calling the cops, and so they know something's going on. I'm cycling through revoke and reinstate. You know, jail is like safe for me to be. And I finally get this very attentive PO. It was a female, and her name was Debbie Kemp, and she's retired. I'm still looking for her, so if she's out there, please find her. I'm sitting there in the bathroom. We're going through this whole process that we do every week, that like I can't pee. I'm trying to like, you know, fake a UA somewhat, you know, we're having this back and forth thing. I think I'm being slick. I'm 40 pounds underweight, bruised, right? And I'm sitting there just defeated, know I'm going to jail without having anything to detox off of while I'm in there. And she sits me down and she looks me in the eyes and she says, I know something is going on. Nobody gets hurt this much. Please just tell me what's happening. And I think I'd given up in that moment. It felt more like a death sentence than hope. And I told her. I told her the truth. And I was sure I was going to get charged because in 2016, we're still calling these women prostitutes and gang affiliated and all of these things, right? So like I'm a criminal. And she understood the situation for what it was. And I didn't really understand the situation for what it was. So she immediately kicks into gear, and she's obviously had some training in this, and this is the first law enforcement officer that I've come in contact with that was trained. And she makes contact, and I'm starting to talk to investigators, right? And he's already blowing up my phone, like, where are you? Are you in jail? Are you coming home? Like, what's going on? So we have to cut the conversation short, but we need to build a case. So I take a witness statement home with me, and I'm expected to fill that out and give it back to them while he's living in my home. And I did, and I hid it. I hid the piece of paper that I was supposed to be working on, and one day found it, and I came home, and all hell had broken loose. He found it, he knew I was snitching, and yeah, that was a very terrifying night for me. He fell asleep, and I got out of the restraints that I was in, and I was able to call law enforcement. And they show up, they know me, right? I've had SWAT just, at my house not long before that. They know I'm a problem, and they take him to jail. Based upon what I was reporting, they thought I was lying because they didn't really fully understand what was going on. They take him to jail, they undercharge him with a couple of misdemeanors, he bails out, he comes right back, and he assaults me again. It wasn't until that happened that law enforcement understood what was happening. The investigators started talking to them. They knew they'd messed up, and he ran. He was on the run. They had 24-hour police officers outside of my house. They would follow me everywhere I went, providing security. They'd come into my home. There was, drugs everywhere. I was giving up. Like, it was bad. The story had made the news. They dropped his name, so of course people who knew him knew who I was. So it wasn't like we didn't say the victim's name, right? It was quickly back to me. The cops didn't care about the drugs. They're like telling me they're sorry over and over, that they promised that they're gonna get him. They're making sure I'm eating, they're doing what they can. And I'm literally just trying to die. It was the worst. Other guerrilla pimps are coming out of the woodwork. They're walking into my house. They're following me. They're trying to recruit me because, they know I'm vulnerable. And it was horrible, horrible. And for weeks, this was going on. So, am I okay to have this type of conversation with these little ones in here? Okay. So he went and hid in a psych ward. So he's not stupid. He went and hid in a psych ward, and they had to get a federal magistrate to override his rights to go in there and drag his ass out. And they did. And the apprehension team, got him hogtied and put their knee in his back, and they're like, we're sorry, here he is, up on a platter, right? And he goes to jail, and he's charged appropriately. I don't know, it's 12 first-degree felonies or something. So he's not going anywhere. He's in max, super max. And police presence starts to die down around my house, and things don't get better. They don't get better because there are no resources, right? I'm in my home, dealing with what's just transpired over the past couple of years. I'm bouncing in and out of treatment centers. Crimes victim reparations was willing to pay for 12 days of residential. At that time, I wasn't even fully detoxed. I was too severe mental illness for primary substance use disorder, but I had a substance use issue, so it was exhausting. And I'd had another run-in with this very aggressive pimp who was demanding that I start working for him. So I was how? I don't trust myself. I don't trust the environment. There's nothing that's gonna help me. And the only safe place I have is being incarcerated. So an opportunity had arose, and mind you, I had an ankle monitor on. They are not taking me to jail. They're trying to work with me, even though I'm a total menace right now. I'm mentally unstable, and I just don't even care. So I have an ankle monitor on. An opportunity arises for me to go to jail. And so I pack my bags, you know what I mean? And I pop a bunch of pills, and I'm getting ready to go to jail. And I go and I commit an assault with a weapon by a restricted felon, and sat down on the curb and waited to be picked up. And they didn't immediately take me to jail. They took me to the hospital. And but they had to. I went to jail. And finally, I was safe, and I was doing great. I was doing great in there. I was the library trustee. I didn't detox too bad. I'd gone in with chapstick and hair ties, all the things. I was feeling good about it. And time was, I don't know, I felt okay in my situation. And the district attorney comes and visits me, and he's like, we've approved you for getting out on work release. which is like unheard of out of Salt Lake County with aggravated charges and weapons charges. And they're like, we want you to come out and you're going to be testifying soon. And I knew that I didn't want to show up in cuffs, and but I didn't want to leave either. So I sat on it for a couple of days, and I ended up putting in the application, and they immediately expedited it. I think I was out in like 24 hours. And I went to the preliminary hearing. And it was just me and the district attorney, the judge, and him and his attorney. It was a closed court, considering the content. And I think I was on the stand for like 4 hours or something, answering really horrible questions from this defense attorney. Things like, you had signed up for it, you liked it, he's stating, you're lying, all the things, like what else are they gonna say, What other defense do they have? I immediately left there. I made it through it, like I didn't lose it, but I'll never forget, like, he's in Supermax, his facial hair is super long, he's in yellow, and he just looks terrifying, and he will not, he's just I knew it was a warning, and I left there, and I immediately went down to North Temple and tried to overdose and die that night, and I didn't die. Of course I didn't die. And that sweet, release, the one that we've all been chasing for so long. And I was back at it. So, fast. So there I was, running and gunning. I was months and months. My POs didn't want me to check in. They thought it was too dangerous. I didn't go back to testify. He got out. I refused to go back. They let him go. He's out on the streets now. I'm running and gunning. They're just you don't need to check in. Just send us an email, just stay away. And I did, and ended up sideswiping, falling asleep at the wheel, and sideswiping 4 cop cars in front of the same police department that rescued me. On accident, but they did ask me if it was on purpose, and I said no. It wasn't, and they didn't take me to jail again. They took me to the hospital and basically told me, your PO's probably gonna come looking for you, and I said, I know, but she's gotta come catch me, and she did, so not long after that either. So, went to prison on some pretty serious charges. Ended up getting sentenced to 26 months. It was a shit show in there, you guys. Horrible. I don't recommend it. 0 out of 10. Sex trafficking, drug trafficking, it is an absolute disaster. Many, many men made it onto my hit list while my stay there. So here I am getting out. I realize that I'm disassociating in prison, I'm waking up hours later in the same position, not knowing what had just happened. So I understand enough that my mental health is deteriorating. And I've sat there for many, many nights, deciding how I was going to get my revenge. I've got to be really honest. This was definitely about revenge. But I knew I needed to do some work. So made arrangements to go to treatment for 30 days when I got out of prison, and got there and to treatment when I was released, went right into residential treatment. You guys, I definitely wasn't a 30-dayer, okay? They cracked me open. I was a total shit show, bad. Ended up doing, I don't know, many, many months. A year later, I'm already enrolled in school, ethical hacking and programming. I understand with the charges that I have that the only way I'm going to be effective in fighting and getting into this is going to be at a cyber level. I'm in school, things are going okay. I'm not sleeping, and like things are hard. Like I don't want anyone to like think for 1 second that this has been easy by any means. I'm still doing trauma therapy like 3 times a week. Since being done with like residential and intensive outpatient and the whole 9, right? I've made it a point to not enter into this arena until I had some time under my belt and some therapy done. I know that the work is sensitive. I cannot be out here mentally ill and post-traumatic stress disorder regurgitating all over vulnerable people. Like that is not the business. Did the work, did it right, entered into the arena of anti-trafficking, and things have blown up since then. I graduate with that degree this semester. Thank God, I'm dying. Thank you. I work for a treatment center, primary mental health. They understand trauma. They understand sex addiction, pornography addiction. This is a must for me. I cannot participate in this cookie cutter stuff that Utah is doing. So yeah, here I am, a couple of kids, work full-time, school full-time, starting to participate in apprehension, investigations, doing hacks for government organizations. I don't know how I got here, you guys, but I know that it is divine. I just do what's in front of me. I can't really talk about a lot of what I'm doing right now. Most of it is ongoing. There is a case of a missing girl that I can talk to you about. Her name is Candace Harris. She's 16 years old and her family loves her and misses her. And if you guys can take the time to do a little bit of research on her, I would really appreciate it. A couple of cool things that I've been able to do in the past couple of months is some work with an NGO, a non-government organization called Exit Us. That's Exit Us. I have vetted many anti-trafficking organizations in Utah because I refuse to participate in this Hollywood-esque, Liam Neeson type perceptions that people have about human trafficking, because that is not what is happening. There's a lot of organizations that are doing this wrong, and a lot of them that think rescue is the only thing that matters. And I am here to tell you today that you put a survivor in far more danger by rescuing them and not having resources for them after. You've exposed them with the community that they only have trust in, and now they're left with nothing. So don't go in there with your documentary team and pull these people out and then just leave them hanging. So in and out of anti-trafficking organizations, giving them a piece of my mind, telling them about themselves, and I finally found one, Exodus. And initially I was like, hey, so you guys talk a good talk, you know what I mean? You guys, it's all about aftercare and doing things right, but I want to know. So I demanded to go on an exit, mobile detox, all the things, right? I wanted to know firsthand. I wasn't going to just trust anybody to tell me that this is what they were doing if I was going to participate with them. They did it right. So here I am with this organization, and they're doing some really cool things, and there's some really great, dangerous people that work for them, and I'm happy to line up. One thing we were able to do was the tornadoes in Kentucky that happened just recently. We were able to do a humanitarian project that was eye-opening for me. Those people had nothing left, and they were happy and grateful. And it was a strange thing to be around so much destruction, but with people who had a sense of community and connection. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. I think we're getting pretty close to out of time, but I want to answer as many questions as possible, and I know I had to breeze through a lot of that, and I apologize for that. It wasn't very linear at all. But I really appreciate having some people here with me today, seeing some familiar faces. I love you guys all very dearly, and I think you're pretty spoiled here at I Am Recovery. I didn't realize how special this thing is you guys got going on, and it's kind of bougie too. This is pretty. I'm thinking I might check in a little bit, a little self-care. But yes, I'm happy to answer a ton of questions. I think the more the better. So please, if you have them, I want to answer them. I want to talk about it.